Hi guys, Freddy here. When I did my review of Twilight 2000, I remember one of my concerns about the game was that it wasn't going to get well supported. That at the time it seemed to me like it was going to be a bit of a cash grab. That they were using the license just to get some copies sold, they were using their in-house rule system, and while they covered a lot of ground with their RPG and it was well thought out, I really didn't think it was going to be too well supported. Well, it turns out I'm totally wrong. I was hugely mistaken. So what I'm doing this video for is I've had a look on DriveThruRPG and I've been having a look at some of the things that they've brought out to support it already. Most specifically, I'm having a look at the stuff which they are making available as pay as what you want. So if you don't want to pay for it, if you just want to have a look through it, then it's free for you. Of course, I do fully support supporting game producers, but this is a great way to have a look at something and work out whether it's going to be any use to you first. Now, I have to admit, looking through these, only one of them I would consider paying for, and I'll leave it up to your imaginations which one it is, because it's going to be the one I rave about. But the others, I don't really think are worth any money. They're basically stuff which should be given away on a website for free anyway. But let's have a look through them. So first up, we've got the Scotland travel map. And this is a guide to the north of Scotland. If we look down to it, we can see summary travel map of the north of Scotland. Map covers Scotland north of Lochgilphead-Dunfermline line, including the Orkney Islands. And that kind of makes sense, because this is the area which is most likely to survive the Twilight War, a nuclear war, because it's far less settled. The north of Scotland is a lot of wilderness and a lot of people. Whereas I come from the southwest of Scotland, which is far more populated and far more likely to be a target in a nuclear war. To be honest, I'm sat about 10 miles away in that direction from a nuclear power station, and about 6 miles in that direction from a major airport with long runways, which supplies would be brought over from America during any conflict. It's an airport which gets used a lot for military planes. So, in the event of a nuclear war, I'm going to be right between two nukes. So, south of Scotland is going to be blasted out of existence. But the north is mainly going to survive. So, it's a good setting for Twilight 2000. So, that makes a lot of sense. It details how it's laid out, road transportation, settlement names, RF airfields, and then we've got the settlement index. So it goes through alphabetically the settlements by population. So the largest two settlements in the north of Scotland are Aberdeen and Dundee. So Aberdeen's got a population of 200,000. Dundee has a population here of 140,000. We've also got, Kirkcaldy? Yeah, 47,000, but everything else is far lower. We've got Durness here at 500. Scowry at 500. Tarbert, 500 as well. Lots of small towns and villages. It then has the same thing, but by population, going from the largest to the smallest. Then we've got settlement name generation. Well, I'm guessing these are actually real place names that they've used, because a few of these I recognise. Again, to point in general direction, we've got Symington here, which is 8 miles in that kind of direction from me. Aberfoyle, which is far further away. Comrie, Carstairs, Gairloch. I recognise a bunch of these. So I guess these are real place names that they're just putting on a random table. But then they've got a name generation table. And as a Scot, these don't sound right. You're just supposed to roll twice and then put them together. But to tell the truth, calling something Old Kirk sounds vaguely Scottish, but it doesn't sound right to me at all. But I suppose it's all right, just to make things up. And that's it. Also included in this one is the map. So there's various versions of this map. Some show settlements, some show roads, some are just geographic maps. I'm just brought this one up as a sample. It's the north of Scotland. It's nicely laid out and presented. It's a bit small. But I suppose you can just zoom in on it. But it seems not very detailed to me. There's not a lot of roads shown on here, even on the roads versions. But I suppose it's fine if you don't really know Scotland, just make it up as you go along. Next up, we have the Referee Aid for Strategic Play. Now, this has got a lot of very useful little pieces of information on it, weather effects as they come in, vehicle maintenance, gun care, radio ranges, conditions for player characters down this side, so starving, dehydrated, sleep-deprived, hypothermic, whether people are marching, force-marched, or they're driving. We've got different stuff about sort of shifts. So each shift can be 5 to 10 hours in length, the referee's discretion. We've got different things for task examples, navigation, weather conditions, Nordic light, terrain types. It's all very handy information. Not really sure the use of it as a PDF, but I suppose you can print it out and have it to hand without having to leaf through the rulebook. It's quite a nice little handout, but this is kind of information I'd expect on a GM screen. And next up, we've got the one on news reporters. So this is a addition to the game where you could play a news reporter. The cameraman who hangs around with the military team reporting on the condition of the war. So when the Twilight War breaks out and everybody's left, they're part of the team, even though they're not a military officer. They're trusted because they are a truth teller. And it's an interesting addition. If you don't want to play a total military officer, if you want to play somebody a bit more pacifistic, somebody who might be trusted by people a bit more because they're not a soldier invading territory, they are a civilian. It can work. It's an interesting idea. It goes through civilian careers, so you can build these into the history of your character. Perhaps they were a news reporter before they signed up to the military. Perhaps they're a freelance reporter, perhaps a combat correspondent or a public affairs specialist. Build that all into the life path that your character took during character generation. There's additional information on that. Then we've got a section on equipment. I was going to pick fault here with digital cameras because I thought the year 2000 digital cameras were really quite primitive. I remember getting one in 2001 and the resolution being spectacularly low. But that was probably just because I was a student and couldn't afford a good digital camera. Because I looked it up and you could get 3 megapixel cameras back in 2000. Which offer a 1600 by 1200 resolution, so just less than this video is. This is about 1900. So digital cameras were decent quality then, so were believable. So I made a mistake there. It didn't seem believable to me, but it definitely is realistic. And we've got other stuff here, more traditional film cameras, notebooks, audio cassette recorders, mini cassettes, directional microphones, etc. It's got a section on developing film here. And then we've got the archetypes. So if you want to start play as one of the people using this, you could be a green public affairs officer. It's got the skills, specialities, etc. through there, suggestions on the gear you'd start with. Then we've got the grizzled news reporter. He's the kind of guy who's been in combat zones before. He's seen the worst that humanity can throw. He's jaded already. It's an interesting character, an older, trustworthy character, a reason why somebody in their 50s or 60s might be hanging around with squads of soldiers, because this guy's experienced. An interesting addition to a player character party. But then we run into something which I find particularly odd. So we've got the grizzled news reporter, and then we've got the clandestine reporter. That's the same picture, just flipped. See, we can make him dance by flicking between the pages. But there's lots of pictures of guys with cameras out there. I went on Pexels, which is a source of freely available imagery, and there was at least sort of 50 pictures of guys with cameras there that you could easily use. But This is another one. So he's a deep cover reporter, trying to dig out stories. He's perhaps a bit less trustworthy. But still a cool character, still a cool addition to the party. And that's all it is. It's 3 archetypes, 2 of them reusing the same image, and a military one, history for your character, that kind of stuff. There's not a lot in this, although it is quite interesting. It's a decent enough addition. And then we have The Baltic Way, an expansion of play of Twilight 2000 by Connor Takonas Hummel. It goes through the Baltic region, so we've got the history in that area through all the years leading up to the Twilight War. We've got the information about the Baltic and military types, the 9th Infantry Division, with all their vehicles, how many personnel, etc. The 64th Independent Naval Infantry Brigade for the Soviets. The Baltic Military Division, again with all their vehicles, all their manpower. The Red Banner Guard. The Baltic Defence Alliance. Then we're on to the Republic of Latvia with background information about that. The Ranger Corps, the Latvian paramilitary. The Stability, a political party. Unity, another political party. Commerce. And then we've got some author's notes. This is 13 pages, and I think it fleshing out a new area, especially with detailed information about what military is there, that's very useful. That's worth its money. I'm a fan of this one. I know I said I wasn't going to mention which one I liked best, but this is it. Yeah, this is very handy stuff. Creating a new area outside your standard Polish theatre operations, expanding into the Balkans, definitely a route that your player characters could take if you're following a campaign where they're trying to get back to America. Perhaps they'd head in that direction. So this could be excellent stuff, very useful in a campaign. And then we've got Artefacts of War, which for some reason my background is showing through the cover of. My green screen effects have gone out of control. But anyway, this is a selection of weapons. If we flick onto the first page, what is this module? This book is a large majority a collection of odd and unique firearms. Their function is similar to that of magical weapons seen in many other tabletop RPGs. They are rare and storied weapons with unique abilities and systems, while still being based in history and realism. And that's what it is. But we've got a table of different guns here with their damage, their rate of fire, etc. All the standard information. And then we've got descriptions, including their special abilities. So the Armalite AR-7 is modular. It's made to be modified with ease. Any rolls made to modify this weapon are done with no negative modifiers and can be done without a workshop. And each one of them has a special ability, allowing you to customize it. Now, I like the idea of different weapons having special abilities, but this book is lacking. There's no pictures of these guns. There's no information beyond that. We've got some gear and crafting here, so we've got stun grenades, tear gas grenades, scopes, combat scopes, some extra stuff, fleshing out weapons a bit. But all of these core guns, there's no images, you've no idea what they look like. I suppose you can Google for them, but why couldn't they have Googled them and put images in? There's not a lot of information in here. It's a bit light. There's decent enough descriptions and there's decent enough abilities, but it highlights one of the flaws of the new version of Twilight 2000 to me. It's a very wide game, but it's only about an inch deep. There's not a lot of depth to the game at all. So all these weapons, to keep them going, you know, you're slogging your way through the post-Holocaust landscape. Civilization has fallen. People are fighting over scraps of food. They're fighting over scraps of civilization. And you're wandering around with your custom gun. Well, that should be valuable. That should be something which can break down easily. But to modify these guns, to fix them, you need weapon parts. It feels like something you get in a video game. You just pick up some weapon parts and you can modify your gun. No, if you've got a special gun, then you need special parts for it. But that's neither here nor there. That's a flaw with the game itself. as I said, there's lots of information in the game. It's very wide in what it offers you. Custom modification, equipment wearing out, all really good stuff. But then the rules for behind that are very, very shallow. But this book's all right if you're looking for some special weapons. Probably best to put them in the hands of a bad guy to make him more effective, and then that's something the heroes can capture and use later on. That would make something a bit more interesting, you know, killing a enemy general who uses a specialized rifle, and then you get hold of it and it gives you an extra ability because you've got his custom gun. It can be quite interesting and might be worth the money depending on that, if that's how you run your game. So as I said, that's a bunch of the books that Free League have put out from different authors for pay what you want. So you can just download them, you can decide if they're useful to you, and then pay up later if you want to use that content, if you do find it useful and worth the money. And you can decide what it's worth yourself. You know, a couple of dollars, go for it. I'm sure the authors will be glad of anything they get. Some of this really does strike me as things which should just be articles on a website. That's the kind of stuff I would have saw in the past. When a role-playing game was supported by a website, the official authors would release stuff. It's the kind of stuff Wizards of the Coast puts out on their website free of charge all the time. They don't ask a cost for it. But there are things here which are semi-worthwhile. They're more than just an article. They are actually an add-on to the game. But anyway, I think I've whittled on for quite long enough as usual. So thank you very, very much for watching. But as always, and most of all, you look after yourselves. And I'll catch you later. Bye now.